Long time no see. Favorite.
You may want to just announce to attendees or everyone that meeting has started. We're waiting on the clock.
Good evening, everyone. Just ask you for your patience at this time. The meeting has not started yet. We're just waiting to reach quorum.
Good question. So for the agency representatives that are online, would it be okay if I passed it out to them at the beginning to introduce themselves with like their name and their agency, or would that be chaotic?
Question? Yes, Diana.
Okay.
Chair of the land use committee. Go ahead. Question.
Hi, Jess.
So there are a couple city agency representatives who are panelists.
Uh-huh.
And I was wondering if it would work if I passed it off to each of them to say their name and their agency at the beginning, or?
Yeah,
would
we
that
like to
be-
do intros.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Or you can just say, we have so-and-so. But like either way is fine with me.
I think I would like to pass it off to each person just so I
Great.
don't.
You don't mess it up?
Yeah.
Less
yeah,
pressure
yeah,
on you.
yeah.
Okay, no problem. Erin will be here in a couple minutes, so I want to wait for her. And
Seven. Well, with Aaron, it'll be seven. We need eight. Right, you have one. That's right, because we're not at 50, we're at
Yeah.
40. 50. I think so, yes, we need eight. Aaron, you need eight. Oh, officially, we're having a patatón. Yeah. We should need to have more, yeah, because it'll be here again.
what about parks? What about parks?
Well, we have to have 8 more members.
Just any committee.
Yeah. I mean,
I thought we had to have 8 of land use or 8 of the parks.
because it's a meeting session, and we have a public hearing.
Right, oh, this is the hearing.
Yeah, exactly. And then after you're gonna have a hearing, it's only 20% of the hearing. She's usually counts people, but because we have less than 50 members.
Right,
Yeah.
now 8, okay. That's like, I just ran into Richard Coder in the subway and I debated telling him to like come join me. I should have. All right, we have Antoinette. Does that count? Something? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're at
So-
7 now.
All right, great.
The need.
Erin just texted me, so I believe in her. Hello.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, you gotta do that. But you can go and pull. Oh, yeah, that's like it's not as full as it's like cut out, so you can see the water from the down, from the back. Yeah.
I've never even always go behind, but now it's come over and wall. Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay.
So like, I mean, Okay. This is my first hearing. What was the Carolyn and stuff?
Yeah, of course.
This is my first hearing in this room. Yeah. Okie dokie, everybody, we're gonna get rolling, starting with the roll call. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hello, everyone. We're gonna get started with a roll call.
All right, I'll be calling on the board members. When you hear your name, just state present. I will say thank you to confirm I got your attendance. Any board members who are attending online, I just ask you to just stay muted at this time when I call your name. Unmute yourself, state present, and then mute yourself again. Diana Aguilar. Grizel Amador. Damian Andrade. Jalila Bailey. Joan Body. Gladys Bruno. Justin Campos. Jerry Chan. Esteban Chavez. Richard Codor. Carrie Conti. Maria Cruz. Danny DeBar. John DeLuper. Gabino Escamilla. Cynthia Felix. Matthew Lorcaris.
Present.
Thank you. You do not count towards quorum, but thank you. You are marked present. Jamie Freed. Ken Fung. Xiomara Garcia. Thank you. Diana Gonzalez.
Present.
You. Hector Gonzalez. Tylisha Gonzalez. Nicole Wong. Nicholas Jackson. Thank you. Dan Comiskey. Jeremy Kaplan. Thank you. Erin Keith.
Present.
Thank you. Wyco. Paul Mack. Antoinette Martinez. Thank you. Jonathan Martinez. Rosie Moda. Julia Pena III. Thank you. Michael Pepin. Benjamin Reeves. Karen Rolnick. Thank you. Joanna Romero. Patricia Ruiz. Damaris Santiago. Sam Sierra. Kalina Storma. Michael Tom. Faye Walker. Catherine Walsh. And Cesar Zuniga. Roll is called.
We have quorum. Okay, so great, we have quorum. All right. So I think without further ado, we'll let everyone get the presentation started. Yeah, take hers. Or no, take the,
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me today. I'm very excited to present this project. I want to get started by passing out. I have a couple print copies of the presentation, 11 copies. Is there anyone who would like a print copy? Yes, okay. Well, actually, sorry, yes. Thank you. And I also want to do some quick intros. I'll start out. My name is Jess Walkler. I am a planner at the Parks Department, project development coordinator for planning. I'm joined by my colleague, Colleen Alderson, right here. She's chief of Parklands. And then we're also joined by a few city colleagues online. And I'm wondering if it's possible if we could all go around for all the city agencies that are joining us virtually. Thank you. And say our names and agencies. Carlos, do you think you would be able to get started?
Yes, good evening. This is Carlos Martinez. I'm the chief of NYC Parks Grintham.
Good evening. My name is Shelton Getter, and I'm an assistant director of acquisitions with DCAS.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alex Truskowski. I'm a real estate planner working with DCAS, and I'm the lead planner helping out with ULURP and land use at DCAS.
I guess, Jess, I'll go next. Jonine Kidder. I'm the Executive Director of Community Affairs and the Chief of Staff at the New York City Department of Transportation Division of Bridges. We've been working closely with the Parks Department on this project.
Is that everyone? It looks like it is.
for the sake of clarification, can you explain what DCAS means?
Yes, DCAS is the Department of Citywide Administrative Services. Yes, there are co-applicants on this ULURP action. Is it possible to show the presentation? Okay.
Oh, it is, okay. Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. This is a presentation for the public hearing regarding the ULURP action to acquire Brooklyn Block 5267, Lot 19. This is a site acquisition ULURP. And the co-applicants are the Parks Department and the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, DCAS. Next slide, please. Okay, so the proposed action, the Parks Department is proposing to use city funds to acquire Brooklyn Block 5267, Lot 19, which I will refer to as the project site, with the goal of preserving this lot as a community garden. It is home to Prospect Farm, a community garden in Windsor Terrace. So the goal is to preserve its use for that purpose. Next slide. So this just shows a little bit of a zoomed out aerial of the project site and the surrounding area, the neighborhood. This lot is in Windsor Terrace at 1194 Prospect Avenue. You can see Prospect Park to the east, Prospect Expressway to the west, and just out of view, Greenwood Cemetery. And it's located right there on Prospect Avenue with Seeley Street and Seeley Street Bridge nearby. Next slide, please. And these are just some photos of the site. you can see the garden beds. In the first photo, we're looking north towards Sealy Street Bridge, and in the second photo, we're looking at the garden from across the street, looking west. And then zoning, okay. We have this very yellow map that shows that the project site, the red polygon, is within an area that is pretty much all residential. The yellow shows the residential zoning district with a few parks nearby. And those blue outlines are of commercial district overlays where small businesses can locate. So the project site itself is zoned R5B. So that's usually detached, semi-detached, and attached buildings with a floor area ratio limited to 1.5 and 2. A little bit to the east on Prospect Park Southwest, there's a little bit of a higher zoning, R6A, and that allows for a maximum floor area ratio of 3 or 3.9. And then, okay, next slide, please. Looking at the actual land use of the area, you can see in the sort of cream color, it's majority 1 and 2 family buildings. There's a smattering in the orange of multifamily walk-up buildings, and then 1 or 2 multifamily elevator buildings. You can see the parks, and in red, the light red and the darker red, that's where those commercial overlays have allowed small businesses like coffee shops, restaurants, and after-school programs. And next slide, thank you. And there are a few peculiarities with this project site. So now you can see the project site in green on this slide, and that's lot 19, and that is what the Parks Department is proposing to acquire. But in the yellow outline is the full extent of gardening operations. So Prospect Farm does extend a little farther past lot 19 into the blue area and the red area. And both of those are under DOT jurisdiction. The blue area is lot 118, and then the red area is right-of-way or a mapped street. So that's part of Prospect Avenue's mapped street. It's a little strip of land that's just right in between the sidewalk and lot 19. So just something to be aware of with this, with Prospect Farm. Okay, now I'm going to move into some of the history of Prospect Farm. And I know we have a lot of gardeners here, so hopefully I get it all right. But feel free to let me know what I might have messed up. Hopefully nothing. But the current owners of the project site are Tom Angotti and Emma Matos Ramos, and they became the owners of the parcel in 1996. And at this time, the lot itself was a little bit of a dumping ground for the neighborhood, had really tall plants. And it was at this time that Tom, Emma, and other neighborhood volunteers endeavored to clean up the lot. It took quite a while, but eventually in 2010, a community garden was formally opened on this property, including surrounding areas to the project site. So the right-of-way and the lot 118 that I was discussing earlier. Moving to today, Prospect Farm is a beloved Windsor Terrace fixture, as you all know, with approximately 40 garden group members who help to steward the space, and 15 garden beds that are communally run. There are also 2 native wildflower planting areas, and the produce produced by the farm is distributed amongst garden members. And there's also a food scrap drop-off twice a week that's open to all. And then the compost that is produced from these food scraps is used back in the garden and also given away. No worries. We're good. Yes. There are also 3 or more public events at the garden each year. Okay, now I'm gonna move into a little bit, Prospect Farms' relationship with Green Thumb, New York City Parks Green Thumb. So this is a program of the Parks Department that supports volunteer-run gardens throughout the 5 boroughs. Prospect Farm is currently registered with New York City Parks Green Thumb. And what that means is that Green Thumb is able to provide access to gardening materials such as wood, mulch, soil, as well as technical assistance, trainings, information, education to the gardeners to help them run the garden efficiently and garden well. And as a part of being a registered New York City Parks Green Thumb garden, the garden must remain open to the public for a minimum of 20 hours each week during the growing season, along with other requirements like signage, etc., that is intended to support public access to the garden. But there would be a slight change in the relationship with Green Thumb if the project site were to become city-owned, and that is that the garden group would be able to enter into a license agreement with Green Thumb, which provides some important benefits. Licensed Green Thumb gardens are eligible to receive labor and capital improvements from Green Thumb. That's a really big deal and would allow, depending on the availability of funding and need, the capital improvements such as raised beds, pergolas, shade structures, sheds, internal water access, and things of that nature. And as a licensed garden, Prospect Farm would continue to be registered and would continue to be subject to those open access requirements that registered gardens must meet. Next slide, please. So to bring it all together, what is the change that we might see and what are the benefits that would come with the Parks Department acquiring the project site? The big one, of course, is that the space is protected for generations to come. So there's a city law that mandates that gardens that are on city-owned properties that are in good standing with Green Thumb must be used and preserved as gardens. So currently, as a privately owned site, there is no such protection for Prospect Farm. So that's one of the big ones. And then the second one is what I just spoke about with Green Thumb, that access to capital improvements and labor. And at this point, I think I'm going to hand it off to DOT. There is a separate but related project that DOT is working on. They haven't begun the community engagement, but of course is the Sealy Street Bridge restoration project. And I just wanted to give Janine an opportunity to say a few words about that.
Thank you, Jess, and I appreciate the opportunity to participate with Community Board 7 this evening remotely. I did want to share that we hope to be coming to you soon for an initial presentation on the upcoming rehabilitation of the Sealy Street Bridge. We have been working very closely with the Parks Department on the garden and making sure that both the bridge can meet the project requirements that we have, including an important element of ADA compliance for the bridge in coordination with preserving and protecting the operation of the garden. Appreciate the efforts of my colleagues, particularly at Parks and at DCAS, for continuing to work forward on this really unique project between the two agencies. We hope to be out to have a presentation on the project early in 2026 to the board and the Transportation Committee. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you, Janine. That's about all I have for the presentation. So I welcome any questions from the committee.
Yeah, we'll start with questions from community board members and then we can get into public comment. I was a little confused about the DOT areas and how this would impact those areas or not impact those areas. Can you elaborate on that a little?
Yeah, so this project does only apply to, or the acquisition does only apply to the lot that's privately owned, Lot 19. The Parks Department is not seeking to acquire those areas under DOT jurisdiction. So those would remain under DOT jurisdiction
And what exactly is in the DOT jurisdiction areas currently?
So would it be possible to go back to the slide? Yeah. Page 7.
Yeah, what's currently there?
So as you'll see in the graphic, there's a yellow line that encompasses the entirety of what is the Prospect Farm gardening operations, the areas that gardeners have gardening beds, the compost bins, storing supplies, wood, ornamental plants, things like that. So that does include the blue areas and the red areas.
Where is the fence in relation to the DOT areas?
So there is a fence that goes along the front of the lot, along the red area, right up against the sidewalk. I don't think there's a fence to the south, to the bottom, where the yellow line is. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there's a fence there.
No, there's no fence in that section.
And then I do think there's a retaining wall on the western portion, on the left side, where the yellow line is.
And
Jess, I'm sorry, if I could just add, the elevation, it's difficult to see on an aerial, but the elevation of Sealy Street, for those, the gardeners who are here, they know the elevation of Sealy Street is significantly above the elevation of Prospect Avenue. So along the area at the top end of this diagram, there is a retaining wall, which is obviously a lot of the blue area, not all of it, but a lot of the blue area is significantly higher than the rest of the active farm area. So that entire blue area is not in active use. It's wooded. There are some trees. Along the left side of the yellow line, up against the first of the private properties, there's extensive tree planting in there and an extensive row of bushes and other greenery separating the green from the first of the residential lots behind it.
Okay, and so then while we're on this page, I was curious about this. It was mentioned that there'd be ADA compliance with access to the Sealy Street Bridge. Are we talking like what are we talking about there?
We are talking about conceptually creating an ADA compliant ramp between Sealy Street and Prospect. The specifics of how that will be sited within the DOT property is what our design team is working on at this time. And in our conversations with Parks to move ahead with the preservation of the garden, we are working to create a ramp that will completely be on only DOT property.
Okay, so that would be on the blue area or the red as well?
It'll be also likely be on a portion of the red as well, with the idea that we will preserve as much of the garden in the red area as we physically can while we meet the federal requirement for the ADA ramp.
Okay, and would that ramp need to incur into the green area at all in order
No.
to reach? Okay.
No.
Okay. My next question was, you mentioned that this is privately owned. Who actually owns this property right now?
Tom Engadi and Emma Matos Ramos own it.
Okay, so we're talking about an acquisition?
That is the proposed action, is an acquisition.
Okay, and how much are we talking about?
We don't know at this moment.
Okay, I'm gonna. All right, any other board members have any questions?
I had some,
Yeah,
she
go ahead,
covered
Erin.
most of mine, but I have two more. Would the hours or accessibility change from the neighborhood? I mean, would the access be expanded beyond just the local community? Would like schools be able to come? Would other groups be able to access the garden more because it is being acquired by the New York Parks Department?
I do not believe that the garden would be required to expand accessibility. I think it would be the same minimum requirement of 20 hours per week along with a few other things. But of course, I don't know if that's something that already happens, school groups or other groups being hosted at the garden, or that's something that the gardeners want to do in the future. So it's not to say that it couldn't happen, but it is up to the gardeners and if they'd like to host that sort of thing or if there is a desire.
My other question was about the events that are hosted there yearly. Currently, you said there's like 3+. Does the Parks Department have a certain minimum or maximum of events? And would they put money or sponsor any of specific events?
So I do believe Carlos maybe can help me out here, but I think the requirement is for 3 public events a year, a minimum of. I don't believe that Green Thumb provides monetary assistance. Do you want to speak to that, Carlos? If you're
Yes, thank you, Jess, and thank you for the question. According to the license agreement, garden groups are required to host at least 2 public events during the growing season. Currently, the garden is hosting more than that, so we're hoping that that continues. In terms of support, we provide the material support for the gardens to thrive, so we should be able to provide them with the resources to host events in terms of like when we have access to tents or tables or chairs, we're able to provide those through specific funding.
Okay, thank you very much. That was all I had.
Thank you. Hi, Julio, Chair, Community Board 7. Thank you for being here this evening and presenting. I want to first note how excited I am about this. I think whenever there's an opportunity to take land and make it more accessible for a community, it's really important. So, and I appreciate that this is happening. I do want to elevate a little red flag that kind of went up when the page 7, when we're talking about the acquisition parcel and the blue and red areas staying under DOT jurisdiction. It has been our experience at this board that when it comes to jurisdictional issues between different city agencies, there tends to be a lot of back and forth about, well, that's not my responsibility, that's yours. Well, that's actually your responsibility, not mine. And we have this kind of back and forth that ends up prolonging some kind of improvement or project for years. And I guess I want to understand a little bit more the rationale between DOT maintaining this jurisdiction, and if there is any, if Parks is interested in acquiring this land as part of the agreement, or is like DOT not wanting to give it up. I guess I'm just trying to understand a little bit more the rationale behind this decision. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So I think we explored in the past options for the DOT jurisdictional areas to come under Parks Management, but due to the upcoming Sealy Street Bridge Restoration Project, it wasn't deemed possible. So we decided just to pursue the privately owned lot. And DOT and Parks, we have been meeting regularly to discuss this project. So we are very aligned. We're in communication with each other, and we're aligned in that we both want to produce the best outcome for the community. We understand that there's multiple needs at play here, the need for accessibility to the bridge, and also a need to preserve Prospect Farm. Janine has, I would like to say, worked on community garden projects in the past. So I hear what you're saying about sort of the interagency miscommunication holding up projects, but I'm hopeful that because we've started with a place of understanding and meeting together from the get-go, that we can be efficient about things and we'll be on the same page. Do you want to add any?
Could I Jess, could I just add? I just wanted to echo everything that Jess has said. From day one, the Department of Transportation and Department of Parks have been of one goal on this project. The bridge is in serious need of rehabilitation. Those of you who've been on the board a long time well know that. This project had a previous start that had to stop, again, in large part because of jurisdictional issues and the intense development that's right around the bridge. Those challenges remain for us, but we do need to bring the bridge into ADA compliance. And so immediately we started to work with the Parks Department, and we've actually met twice with the owners of the property with Parks to try to find a way to kind of, if you will, shoehorn this ADA ramp onto the site so that it has the least possible impact on the garden. And then both teams can meet their requirements on the project. And we're committed, fully committed to supporting the garden, staying on that spot.
I have another question, actually. Did you want to answer that question? Use a, yeah, yeah.
At the end of the day, should there be garden uses on what is technically DOT property? Parks and DOT, we have for properties throughout the city created MOUs between the agencies. So whereas property that is retained by DOT and Parks is managing, we outline those responsibilities. And hopefully that will provide the clarity of who is doing what. I don't know if that, I think you were speaking to just who is responsible for what, if there's a problem, who's responsible for this, and who do we turn to? Janine, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but for the DOT pieces that will remain in jurisdiction, this could be, when all is said and done, we could have an MOU that outlines that. It doesn't exist today. We have no such MOU. The garden has been thriving in the spaces, but we could certainly formalize that, and Parks and DOT can do that. So Janine, I don't know if you want to expand on that or correct me if I'm wrong.
Thank you, Colleen. Just to add to it, as Colleen said, which was a very important reminder, we do have an existing arrangement on a very large garden that was particularly in a Bridges jurisdiction, which was a project that I was able to bring through the Division of Bridges at Grand Concourse and 153rd Street. It's almost a full 1 acre garden that has a Green Thumb operating license on a DOT-owned Bridges jurisdiction portion of property. It just celebrated its 10th anniversary. I'm very personally proud of the work that we've put in to work with the International Rescue Committee for a produce producing garden at that location. And we also have another Green Thumb garden that's physically located on the 69th Street Bridge over the Long Island Expressway. It was the first time we were able to actually have a garden physically on a bridge structure. Very proud of being able to get the support from my Bridges team to allow us to move ahead with that. So we have over a decade of experience working with the Parks Department and their Green Thumb program on DOT portions of property. And I'm confident we'll be able to bring a good outcome to this project as well.
I have another question. Currently, who is in charge of running this garden? Who parcels out plots? Who makes sure there's scheduling for hours where it's publicly available? Who's the person who gets it done?
So that would be the gardeners, the garden group. They're all responsible for that. I think, I don't know, do you want to hear from them for more details?
We will, but how will that change under Parks jurisdiction?
That will not change under Parks jurisdiction. The garden group will remain in control of how the garden is governed, how it's run, but there will be that extra support, essentially. Does that answer your question?
Okay. Jeremy?
So thank you. I'm Jeremy Laufer. I'm the district manager for the community board. I'm not a board member, so I don't have a vote on this, but I do have some strong opinions based on my experience here. I have no confidence in multiple agency jurisdictions from our experience in this community. Look outside at the Fourth Avenue medians filled with weeds. Look at the Second Avenue medians where DOT chopped down every plant when we asked them to remove the weeds. Look at the area right next to the Prospect Expressway. When there are multiple jurisdictions, nobody is really responsible. So I would greatly suggest an MOU and that it be made public. The next thing is, I'm very curious about the Sealy Street Bridge project, where you say you want to have an initial meeting with us. Our initial meeting was in 2001. And it was such an urgent project then that you rushed in here and told us it had to be done, and then it disappeared in 2003. And I stopped asking about it in 2010. But it's urgent again, I'm told, I hear. And you said you're going to come to us soon. Could you please define what soon means, since we haven't heard from DOT or the city in over 20 years on this project, which is urgent?
I mentioned earlier that we're looking forward to come to the board in early 2026.
Any other committee member question or community board member questions? Enough out of you. All right, public comment. Come on up to get the mic. That's right, I'm looking at you, kid. Yeah.
I agree with you.
About what?
I want a garden too.
Yeah, we want to keep the garden, right?
Yay!
Yeah.
And your age.
I am 7 years old. My name is Julian. Huh? No, but I just wanted more gardens.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you. It's hard to follow Julian in terms of adorability. So I'll just talk about real estate. Is this, so I guess I'll just ask these questions. I'm John Santor. I'm just a community member of the committee, not a board member. But the land, Tom Angotti, is this the Tom Angotti, the urban planner, the CUNY urban planner? Oh, Mr. Angotti's over there. Hello, sir. Okay. So I'm very interested in the process by which situations like this come to be. So I guess these are open-ended questions. Can people come up and answer the questions, or so how did this acquisition process start? Was it brought forward by community members, by members of the garden, went to the city and asked for the city to purchase? Did the city initiate it? Because this is going to a ULURP. That's the idea, right? It's not in ULURP yet, but it would go to a ULURP. Oh, it is in ULURP now. I'm sorry. It is in ULURP. Okay, so yeah, so what was the backstory here?
Okay. Tom Angotti. I co-own the site with my wife, Emma Matos. And we started it over 15 years ago. We live in the house next door, which was a project of HPD. It was built on the old industrial sites of, I forget the name of it. Anyway, it's a string of housing that wound up being affordable housing. It's no longer affordable. We bought it. We were the first people able to buy into these city finance homes. The lot on which the park is located, the garden is located, came along with it because HPD had decided not to develop it for good reason. Aside from the contamination of the site, it was much smaller than the other housing sites. It was left over. So when Emma and I went to close on the house, the previous owner said, oh, by the way, you get that empty lot right next to you. I am a retired professor of urban planning at Hunter College in the Graduate Center, and I've taught about sustainable community development. And I said, well, why can't we turn this into a community project? Because it didn't take very long for me to understand that I couldn't handle this on my own. So we put out a call, I put out a call that went viral. 100 people came from the Bronx, from all parts of Brooklyn and Queens. Come help us clear the lot and turn it into a community project. The Prospect Park was founded around 3 basic principles, which I made up, but I believe in every one of them. One is building community. And I look now back at the 15 years, over 15 years that the project has functioned. I retired from the organization because I have enough problem with my own backyard and my own front yard. But the thing that is most inspiring about this project is that it vibrates with community. Members change, new members come, but there's a continuity of people who have been with the farm from the beginning, but new people keep joining. And there are activities, public activities, several in a year. It's open.
Actually, so before we get into like the whole explainer all over again, I know John has some other questions and he was just asking you to identify yourself.
Can I answer your question about the bridge?
Yes.
Because
Well,
I did have
okay.
an opportunity to meet with the engineer from DOT, but we never discussed details. She did share with me some preliminary sketch ideas that, in my opinion, are problematic. The ADA ramps, and I fully believe in ADA. You need to have ADA ramps with a new bridge, yes. But you cannot interfere with the greatest physical asset of the Prospect Farm, which is its openness to the street. People look out and they see green. If they look out and all they see is a ramp, it destroys one of the greatest qualities of Prospect Farm. And it's a barrier. I do not want to see that happen. That's a deal breaker, in my opinion. And although I did have an opportunity to hear from the engineer from DOT, and my wife agrees with this too, we do not yet support a solution because we haven't seen a solution that's adequate that will preserve it as a community garden.
But that would be a separate project. I mean, that's a separate project, right? The bridge would be a different public engagement process. Is that right? Separate from this? Okay. And could you clarify, Professor, or anybody else, but this current Euler process, how did it get initiated? Was there a community call for it to be initiated? Did a group approach the Parks Department? Did Parks approach the farm? How did it get started?
I'm not sure how it actually got started, but I was in touch with Parks. I was open to the possibility of making this a permanent garden. So we agreed to this maybe 5 years ago. I'm not sure exactly how long.
So in terms of who wants this to happen, obviously there are a lot of folks right here. Is there a petition? Is there a letter? Is there a list of people that are saying they want this to happen from the area, volunteers? And how many people are there who want this to happen?
Prospect Farm is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. It was established, I don't know, almost 15 years ago. And they do pay a modest fee to us. We continue to pay property taxes on this. And that's another thing that eats into our budget.
Is anyone against this? Anyone in the community or the area? Has there been any opposition to the extension? We have to hear from people, but
They haven't had their chance to talk yet.
has the board received any information either way of any opposition to this? Okay, and how big is parcel, is lot 19? How large is it?
While we're figuring out the answer to that question, do you own the full area or just the green portion?
No, the full area.
Oh.
Well, except DOT owns the area adjacent to the bridge.
So the blue area on that slide, but you own the red area? Okay,
Oh, no, the red area is right of way of crossing.
so you only own the green area?
That's
Yes.
correct.
It's just lot 19, just lot 19.
Lot 19 is 3,207 square feet, I believe.
And so I understand you want to hear from people. Chair, so I just wanted to ask again about the purchasing price. So the city would be using capital funds to purchase the land?
Correct. That is, the city would be using, we'd be using city funds to acquire this property, which is what necessitates, we go through ULURP.
You have to follow the ULURP process in order to make the sale legal?
Yeah, I guess you could put it that way, legal. Yeah, what we're looking to receive through ULURP is permission to acquire.
Okay, and this is money that would be that the city already has? Would it have to be passed in a subsequent budget? Is it just within Parks's existing budget that they could move for this purchase?
Yes, it is in our existing budget.
Okay, and can you give us any estimate on the amount of money? I mean, is it $1 million? Is it $10 million? Is it $500,000?
Colleagues at DCAS, we have a preliminary amount, and I don't think it's appropriate to state here. I'll let DCAS, mention that, but what happens with any acquisition by the city following ULURP approval, DCAS establishes fair market value. Once we have the approval to proceed, they will then make an offer and negotiate with the owner. So that's how it works, and the city assesses fair market value. So that's how DCAS does that.
And so if a sale were to go through, how could the public find out what that price is?
Everything's recorded at Department of Finance.
So we would be able to look it up using Department of Finance, but after the sale happened?
Correct.
Okay. I have other questions, but in the interest of time, I would like to hear from more people as well in terms of who wants this to happen and what the process was. And my last question involved what Jeremy was mentioning in terms of multiple agency jurisdiction and what the chair was mentioning as well, and whether there is something this committee could recommend pertaining to that. And because that seems like a serious concern. And maybe if anybody else shares that concern, yes or no, it would be helpful to hear. Okay, thank you.
All right, any other community board members? Okie dokie, opening it up to public comment. Who wants to come on up?
Good evening. I'm Maria Roca, standing member of the community, and I see many faces that I recognize in the audience, and so happy to be here to discuss a project that gives back to the community. That is not some developer looking to suck the life away from us, but rather to permanently put life in the community. And I know I could get very emotional about this because this is a very rare moment. And I'm happy to be here and be in support. The nitty gritty of this is up to, for you guys to figured out, and if Angoti's in the room, you know, everything is okay. You know, I know how many decades, Tom Angotti, you know, from our past in developing truly affordable housing, when affordable really meant affordable housing. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say, because it, you know, that needs to be recorded, that this is a momentous occasion for me and for other people who were saying the same thing. Wow, to be here and not have to fight with anybody, but to be able to support wholeheartedly that this is going to be the future for this land. Thank you for your generosity to both of you.
Hello, my name, is this on?
Hold it close, yeah.
All right, so my name is Cassandra Warney. I am a garden member. I submitted some written testimony, but I think I'll just focus on some pieces that kind of organically came up in the back and forth. What really sets our garden apart and makes it unique is we have no wait list to join the garden. We have no individual plots. We collectively approach things. And so we have a planting committee, a composting committee, a kind of group that figures out scheduling for watering. But what was really great was when I moved into the neighborhood 3.5 years ago, I just emailed the email that was on the poster outside the garden. A few days later, garden member Tom gave me a tour, and I was officially a garden member. We are continually growing, so we have a little over 100 people on our Google kind of listserv, which is the main way the garden communicates. We have right now 42 active due-paying members this year, and we added 29 new people this year. And I'll also mention that we have a lot of events. So there's the big kind of Earth Day, and there's a fall festival coming up. We also, during warmer months, have a monthly potluck. We have an active book club. We do, there's been a couple of different collaborations with local schools over the summer. And so we're very much about trying to bring community members in, and the composting program, I think, is a great way with those kind of daily, weekly drop-offs that help out with that. And then the last thing that I'll just mention is that the geographic region of this community board, I think we're ranked 47th out of 59th in terms of the percent of parkland available to residents. And so if the community board can support this, it will just be able to add to what's really needed, which is green space.
Anyone else? Really? Oh,
Anyone online?
oh, we got. Yeah, let's get the microphone. Oh, go ahead.
My name is Karen Wiley. I'm also a garden member. And John just also asked a question, I'll say, about the dues. And let's see if I can answer this. So we're volunteer run. And if you'd like, you know, it's honestly, it's optional. And correct me if I'm misspeaking with a nod or a shake. But we pay $30 a year. And that just goes into our communal pool. And that's how we pay for seeds and the supplies that we do use right now, since we have only a little, you know, we have limited support at this time from Green Thumb because we're not parks owned. Does that answer? Okay, awesome. Great. I was going to talk a little bit more about this as well. So because we're on, oh, thank you. Because we're on this big hill right next to Sealy Street and Prospect Ave, infrastructure is like a really important part of our garden too. Being on a hill makes it kind of a challenging site. And so having this space be preserved as green is really great for preventing erosion, for preventing runoff and washout into Prospect Avenue. And so that's an ongoing huge project for a lot of people in the garden, is just building stairs, making sure we have sedge or other native plants that are on the site to keep those roots, keep the dirt in place, keep it from washing out. And so preserving this as a space would be a really helpful way to do that. Because we're on a slope too, it kind of does Oh, I think I just lost this.
It goes in and out. Just stick with it.
Okay.
It don't move so much.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Because it is a slope, that does limit our planting space as well, and so that kind of gives us reason to keep our communal structure because we won't ever have enough space to have a one bed per person situation. And the other thing that's would be really wonderful about additional Green Thumb support and being acquired by parks is that infrastructure and physical accessibility piece. So in the same way that we're talking about ADA with this bridge, more support and funding from Green Thumb would let us do things like have more of the garden itself, since it is sloped, be accessible to all ages and all abilities. And so those are things that would be such a boon with this extra support from parks.
Yes. Yep. Leave it. Oh,
Julia Melzer, please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi there, Julia. I'm a community member of the Land Use Committee. I certainly support the continued use of the space as a garden, and in general, the notion of acquisition. I had a question more related to the bridge, and I also support, structural, integrity of the bridge as well as ADA access. I was just curious: is DOT obligated to come back to the community board for any discretionary action, or is it just a courtesy review with the community and, with the garden group, for any impacts to the garden? And I ask only because, if there's like encroachments just for construction or impacts to the garden, like in theory, a private property owner might have more control over that process because it's private property versus if it's a park's owned site and then it's kind of city agency to city agency. Which, and maybe in this case, there would be coordination taking place. So I am just curious, like, what is the public review obligation of the bridge plans? And I'm just building on Tom's own observation, or, that he, from what he's seen thus far, the plans might be detrimental to the openness of the garden. That's it. Thank you.
did we have anyone else? Yes, come on and take the mic.
Good evening. I'm Tom Hinchin. I've been a member of the garden for 14 years and previously served on the board. And I want to talk about Prospect Farm as an educational resource for the community. As Tom Angani pointed out, we have this banner that says healthy soil, healthy food, healthy community. And nowadays, there's a lot of interest in those topics. There's a lot of interest in sustainability, and we're able to teach children and adults and answer their questions about those topics. So most recently, a couple of months ago, we had a School of Wonder group who operates out of Prospect Park it's like a children's camp, and they came and they learned hands-on about composting. We've worked with preschool children. We've had high school groups, and adults come often to ask us gardening questions. And anytime we have open hours, the garden members who are on duty for those open hours, and that's 7 days a week, try to the best of their ability to answer those gardening questions and other related questions that people may have. And when we do have open events, we give tours. People have questions. People want to know. And we have activities for the children to teach them about gardening through hands-on arts and crafts and so on. So we are a resource, and I think a lot of people join with the idea of, I want to learn more, and we welcome them all in. Thanks.
I'm Michelle Greenberg. I'm also a community garden member at Prospect Farm. And I used to belong to, I'm also going to talk about the community aspect of the garden. I used to be a member of another community garden that was very big, actually, way bigger than our garden. And it was fun and it was great, but it was really different than this current garden. And it really is striking to me when I joined. One of the reasons I joined, I have to say, is because I was just walking by and somebody said, hi, like was so friendly that I felt like I can't not join this garden. But this garden is different in a couple of ways that have been mentioned. But one of the things is that nobody has their own plot, which was mentioned that means that there's no wait list to join. So you don't have to wait years or months or years to join the garden. It also means that everything in the garden belongs to everyone. All work gets shared, including planting, harvesting, building, of which has been a lot of, that we have done a lot of building. And it's amazing what this garden looks like now compared to, 10 or 15 years ago. Composting, which is really also a big deal. People drop off their compost to the garden, or drop off their food waste. General maintenance, events, and fundraising. All of it is shared by everyone. And what that means also is that all produce is shared. So even if I just want to say that this is so unusual in the world that we currently live in. And it means that everyone works cooperatively on everything. And people feel really welcome and part of the garden. And that's such a big deal. Also, people can participate in whatever way they want to. You don't have to sign up for a special committee if that doesn't work for you, although most people do. But this means that people feel ownership of and connection to the garden in a way that's really unusual, and that people can really enjoy being there without feeling like there's something they should be doing. It also means that even if you can only help with the garden, let's say from home, be on a committee that let's say helping to plan our community celebration that happens a couple of times every year, you're still a full community garden member. You can still share in the same privileges that everyone else shares in, including taking produce when it's harvested and everything else that is involved. So that is what I'm going to say about it. Our beautiful garden. It's also very, very beautiful. If you look at this garden from across the street, it is amazing. I love just walking by and looking at it.
So before we hear any more public comment, I do want to, it seems to me that a lot of the comment we've heard so far today is about how great the garden is. I'm more interested in focusing specifically on whether folks are for or against this proposal and why. So obviously it's a great community space, but how do we best preserve that is a question that I'm interested in hearing answered from, especially those of you who came all decked out with your marigolds today. So yeah, anyone else? Oh, I can see that you want to talk. Okay. Go, yeah, anyone. Sure. Yeah. Let's let her go first. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kate Glusberg, also a member of the garden and a member of the community. And I wanted to talk specifically on the ecological value of the garden. I think one of the ways that I'm concerned is when someone was talking about the access and the ramp, potentially the ramp cutting into the bird walk, because that's such an important part of this space. And actually that's what brought me there, is because I was taking a walk back in April through the neighborhood, and I was just so enthralled by the abundance of the native plants, and I was inspired and surprised to see this flourishing on the sidewalk. It's really pretty rare across the city. And so to me, it was automatically clear that it wasn't just a garden, that it was really a community effort with real ecological value. And as someone who's a bird lover and native plant enthusiast, I felt instantly drawn to Prospect Farm and had a wish to help out. And I've been volunteering since June. I try to come every couple of weeks. So I wanted to go over some of the really important reasons why this space is really has value. So first, it provides aesthetic pleasure. So simply put, it's beautiful. Second, it provides an instant opportunity for local residents to connect with nature. As Tom pointed out, we have a lot of school kids that come through and people just walk by the bird walk. They can observe the insects that are often buzzing and crawling about. And they can also touch a lot of the plants that are right there that are accessible at any time throughout the season. And third, the birdwalk has a lot of native plants, which serve an important ecological function. So specifically, they serve habitat for native pollinators, and the pollinators, especially the insects, they play a critical role in our local ecosystem. They're not just, oh, there's only 50 seconds left. They're not just pollinating plants. They're an important food source for native birds. So we have 50 species of native plants. That's a lot of biodiversity that's packed into a small space. And we have lots of goldenrod. These are providing habitat for 115 species of moths and butterflies and 11 species of native bees. And all of these insects, in turn, they feed a lot of our birds that are coming through in the spring and the fall and are really needing all of this food source to keep them going. And it's also an important corridor for all the birds because we have Prospect Park to the north and we have Greenwood to the south. So it's creating this space in between those areas. So thank you so much for the time. Oh, yeah.
Could we just clarify again? I'm sorry if I missed it, just because what the chair was just saying. So there's a proposal here, but where did the proposal come from? Did the farm approach the Parks Department and say, we want you to purchase this land? Did something else happen? Can we get clarity on the actual initiative here? And to that point, like, are there other, I mean, so this is Parks that is going to purchase it, but could there be other agencies that could purchase it? Obviously, maybe it could be a private sale. Why would this be the best entity? Why should it go to Parks, and why would Parks be the best entity? But also, how did it start again? How did this start?
This is Carlos Martinez from Green Thumb. I can answer that question. So thank you. Tom and Gotti, around 2017-18, approached Green Thumb about this idea with the idea of preserving the garden, thinking about if it's private property, how to preserve the space for future generations. Took many years to come to an agreement for the acquisition. So we explored this and discussed this at length with him and Emma as the owners, and that brings us to today, to the ULURP process. So that was the process. It was brought to us. We are interested in preserving community gardens. We support a network of over 560 community gardens across the 5 boroughs. 388 are under park jurisdiction, and we think that we are suited to continue managing more gardens like this one.
Can I add something? No? Okay.
Actually, I had a question. This is partially for the community group that's here and partially for the city. Mentioning composting, is the composting that you guys do on site for the garden to sustain your own garden, or is it also like, does the city come and pick up the composting? And then my secondary question is after that, which kind of builds on that, is that if the composting is given over to the city, because now that is a citywide requirement, is there a possibility that additional funding could be given to the community garden to facilitate that composting better? I don't know.
So I'm really glad that you asked the question around our composting program because it's something that I think, even though I'm not directly part of it, it's one of our coolest elements. So we, just on background, I'll mention that during the pandemic, when all of the city collection stopped, we actually continued and expanded. And that's because we have an ongoing relationship with Big Reuse. And so what we have in the setup is we have on site our own composting bins, and we'll use those, but our collection, even after the city's rolled out like a citywide, all the brown containers, we still get more composting than we can handle. And so there's green bins from Big Reuse that are there, and we'll put the excess in there. Does that answer?
Sorry, I guess the secondary question is for the Parks Department, due to the amount of composting they're able to do in the garden itself, is there any kind of additional funding or like pickup that you guys can do or would be arranged now that it would be a Parks Department site?
I think this would be another question that Carlos would be best suited to answer.
Yes. Thank you for the question. We defer to each garden group across the city how they want to handle the composting operations. However, Green Thumb is in a position to support gardens with their operations. So we're able to give them training, the proper training to manage the compost on each of the sites. We are able sometimes to provide them with the materials to build the compost bins, lumber, also the foundations for the compost bins. We just provided to all garden groups brown bins if they want to decide to have a DSNY to do the pickup of the food scraps. So there are different ways that we can support the groups. Every group is different, so depending on their needs, we're able to support them.
I would actually just like to do a show of hands to those people who are not members of the community board and not employees of relevant city agencies. Who wants this to go to the Parks Department instead of its current iteration? Okay, that's helpful. How many of you have ever dealt with the DOT before? Yeah. Some people on
Just
this
a couple.
Zoom are not going to like this, but we have found as a community board that the single most difficult and frustrating city agency of all the city agencies has been the DOT. I'm looking at this map and it says that you have to go through DOT property as a right of way in order to access the garden, correct? So what I would advocate for if I were in your shoes is that actually this red area on slide 7 would become yours with the right of way to the DOT's blue section.
I would also advocate for the community garden to be very involved with how you want the ADA access to go. I want to be very careful with saying that because ADA access is important, but obviously if it is kind of blocking a line of sight or even like entry without massive signage or obvious signage, then that is important. And I feel like the owner and the community through the public MOU might have more of a say in that. Hint, hint.
So yeah, you did mention the possibility of an MOU. I think that's something we very much like to see as soon as possible. Yep. Until when?
Until they actually.
Points. This garden has existed in the DOT pieces for over 10 years. And so it hasn't troubled now. I know there's a future bridge project and we don't know the iteration of that, but I think as Jess explained, we've been talking to DOT. I think they take it very seriously in terms of this existing garden. It's a very important asset to the community members, and that we are definitely committed. Parks and DOT, we want to see this garden thrive, and we understand the sentiment about the frontage. And in terms of the MOU I was speaking about, is that, you know, when the property is acquired, I think DOT and Parks committed to working out the mechanics for maintenance. And then, you know, as it is situated now, and then whatever the iteration of the bridge project is, what of the garden in technically what is street right of way, how those be to be managed between the agencies. We do, I understand, I get a lot of questions every day, as not every day, but quite frequently, whose property is this? Who's, you know, in charge, that come from elected officials, community board members, and I totally understand that dynamic. Here, I think because Parks and DOT have been talking about this very specific piece of property and understanding the lay of the land, I'm confident that we will come up with a strategy that's clear and that the community board is aware of who's in charge of what. I'm not an engineer, and DOT, the bridge design is their bailiwick, but I can just say that we are really engaged, DOT Bridges and the Parks Department. We want to make sure that the garden thrives, and we hear the concern about no confusion over who's in charge of what. So if there's an issue, people know who to reach out to, if it's Green Thumb Garden or if it's a DOT matter, whatever it might be. So there's clarity. So I guess that's all I can say on that.
As the committee, is that it's your preference as soon as possible to see a formal MOU? Does that mean that would be before you kind of would make a suggestion to the broader community board to move forward with the proposal?
My understanding of the timeline is that that's not possible and that the MOU would have to come after, but that's something that we would want to pay attention to very closely, because we want to be here to support you guys if you do have any difficulties, and to make sure that this garden continues to function as it is now in terms of being a valuable community space.
We might be able to do a first draft if we want to do like bullet points and then maybe formalize it afterwards. Tom?
Another important fact of history. When Emma and I first moved to Windsor Terrace, bought our house, one of the first things that was happening was a community-wide protest against DOT, which had proposed rebuilding the bridge. And DOT's argument was, well, it's unsafe. And if you look at it, you could believe that. It's an old bridge. It's a little flimsy. Well, so we were new to the neighborhood, but I talked to some other folks and they were very distressed with the DOT plan. DOT insisted, and I went to one of the public hearings, that it was an emergency and it had to be rehabilitated or it could be dangerous. That was 30 years ago. Okay? It's still there. It's functioning. One of the factors that did come up, was very important, was that there's an adjacent apartment building that, according to the DOT designs, would have had to be moved, or I mean, this is like a 6-story apartment building that would have to have been dealt with somehow, condemned. and people got worked up. So we know, we've heard those stories. But the other important thing is DOT just recently responded, and I, applaud them for this, responded to the Sealy Street homeowners who wanted to turn Sealy Street into a one-way instead of a two-way because of the heavy traffic. And most of Sealy Street is 1 and 2 family homes. And DOT agreed. And I applaud them for that. And I can testify that, and my Sealy Street neighbors can testify to this. The traffic, as Tom knows, you live on Sealy Street.
When I was on the transportation committee when we did that, that happened after an extended period of very active advocacy and unfortunately a death. So that is my warning to all of you. I do want to move this along if there's no further comment. I'd like to do, okay, 3 minutes.
Hello, my name's Cyrus Ginsburg. I'm a member of the Garden. I'm a senior in high school, and I first came to the Garden when I was in 7th grade. It was in the middle of the pandemic, and I found the Garden online. I think I just searched up gardens near me. I was looking for a garden that anybody could join, and grow vegetables in, which just being able to grow my own food was appealing to me, and it made me feel hopeful and powerful, and for me that was very valuable at that time, when it felt like my present life was determined by COVID and my future was determined by climate change, and it's not fun to think about those things, and how much our lives are determined by really big things going on in the world. But through the Garden, I can acknowledge that these issues are there while also being motivated by all the hope in the Garden. And there were and are so many reasons to be hopeless, but the Garden gave me a community of hope. I think that there's other things I could say. I think the community at the Garden is amazing. I've met so many people. I've been able to talk to people from all over the country, and also people who have lived in Brooklyn their whole lives, and who are gonna stay here. I've gone to plant Swiss chard with my 5th grade social studies teacher. I've run into a member and her wife at synagogue, and it's just been very valuable for me, and very special to be part of a community of all ages. And I think that the transfer of Prospect Park to the Parks Department, I think would make it more clear and more accessible as a space, and I think would make it easier for other people to join, and find on the internet. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, last one. We do need to use the mic so that the folks online can hear.
Question about what the place, the owner said that it was once a toxic waste dump, but industrial area, and I mean, maybe we can talk after. I'm just really curious as to what was there, and do you guys use raised beds to deal with that so that you don't actually plant into the soil? So I never, I mean, I've lived for 20 years across the highway, and I had no idea that was once a toxic, I mean, other than the highway, I just was wondering what that was.
Right. An industrial laundry area. That's right. All right, so I'd like to do a roll call of the, no? Oh, okay, so I am now closing the public hearing. Do I need a second for that, or I have all the power? I just decide? Okay, love it. I'd like to do a roll call of the land use committee members to see if we have quorum. Wait, what? We are starting a new meeting and we will do the roll call.
All right, I'm doing the roll call for the land use committee meeting, land use committee members. Just hearing your name, state present. Yeah. Diana Gonzalez.
Here.
Erin Keith.
Here.
Joan Body. Gabino Escamilla. Xiomara Garcia. Matthew Florkowitz. He was
Present.
online. Thank you, but you do not count towards quorum. Yes. Julia Harris. She was online. Are you, Julia, you gonna mute yourself? Okay. Nicholas Jackson. Thank you. Jeremy Kaplan. Thank you. Antoinette Martinez. Thank you. Karen Rolnick. Thank you. Damaris Santiago. John Santor. Thank you. Maria Roca.
Can you say present?
Thank you. Yeah, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 members here for the land use committee.
Quorum. Okay, we have quorum. So now we have a motion on the table. No?
Wait.
I have to make a motion? I told you I'm still new at this. Thank God you're here, Julio. All right, so I'm gonna put a motion on the table to support this zoning text amendment to make Prospect Garden a Parks Committee owned and managed space. We have a second. Okay, what is it? It's just a land use item. Acquisition. Yeah. Cool.
Exactly that.
Yeah, whatever they said. Okay, friendly amendment from Julio.
So now that we have a, yes, this is a land use item for Parks to Purchase, lot 19. I'd like to make a friendly amendment that so to approve with conditions, and the condition being that Parks acquires the red DOT area, and DOT works out with the Parks Department when it comes time to address Sealy Street. Just from our experience, I think that makes the most logistical sense.
I accept that friendly amendment. Is there any, yes. Point of information from John?
Chair Pena, could you just clarify the value of acquiring the red area as well would be that?
Thank you for the clarification, John. It was mentioned that the sole entrance to the park was on DOT jurisdiction, and it makes more sense that this was acquired from Parks so that the Parks has the sole entrance and egress to the acquired lot.
So yes, we have the map up here. The idea is for the blue to stay under DOT jurisdiction, but for the red to transfer to Parks jurisdiction along with the green area. Yes, Jeremy.
I mean, I'm really curious to hear actually from the people on the farm, what would be the best, what would you see as the most advantageous thing to do? Because I think it sounds like also you have a relationship with the DOT and haven't had any issues. And is it better for us to discuss like that within the ULURP process that the MOU is formalized, is already in there before ULURP is passed? I'm just curious because I don't want to presume that you know, that would be the best course of action. Good, but it did sound like from what Tom mentioned that the you know, the issue of the DOT and putting in the entrance, and I want that to be, you know, copacetic with what the farm is and to not ruin the nature of the farm. So I'm just curious, like, that's why it's kind of a point of clarification, but from the farm, like, what do you see as the best route?
Our public hearing has ended, so what I will ask to do is I'd like to see a show of hands from community garden members of who would prefer the amendment of including the area in red in the parks change versus those who would like to stick to the plan as it exists. So all for the including the red area, all for excluding it. Okay, and abstentions. Yeah.
Is there, by a show of hands, how many people want to do kind of a first draft of the MOU to be included with the amendment? The MOU is the.
MOU is a memorandum of understanding. It's
the-
like a precursor to a formal agreement, or it is kind of a formal agreement. Okay.
Oh,
you're right.
okay. All
So-
right.
Okay, all right.
Sorry.
Yes, I think we can, well, then I'll actually propose another amendment to mine, is that we would like to see a draft MOU as soon as possible. And ideally, that would precede further movement on this ULURP action. Any other questions or comments from committee members? All right, in that case, and what was that?
Unanimous consent.
All right, and so unless there are any, what was that? Uh-huh.
Again, say for the record, has the board received any opposition to this? Any letters in opposition, any letters supporting it?
No.
Gotten some of the folks here.
But no, nothing, we have received nothing in opposition to this project.
All right, so in that case, if there are no objections, I'd like to pass this by unanimous consent. Are there any objections? If so, please raise your hand. All right, it is, seeing none, it is so passed. Oh. And with that, before we adjourn, yes, John? I was about to adjourn. Please. Yeah.
So this is not about this issue. This is just about land use going forward. So again, I'm a community member of the Land Use Committee. So this is obviously an extremely important committee. I would like to request the following for land use. I think it's very, very important for us to try to talk to each other about setting agenda items and what our priorities are and how often we want to meet. I know there's some new members probably of the committee that were recently added. So my general request is that we try to facilitate communication between committee members to see if we can come to, I'm not opposed to this in any way, but this particular meeting, but if we can talk about what our priorities are and how often we want to meet and what we want to meet about. And the second thing is I was hoping the chair could quickly talk about the St. Rocco's site. And are we going to have another meeting about that either this month or in October? I definitely support that. That is a massive project and a massively important project for this community. So could you speak to those 2 points before we adjourn?
I am happy to facilitate communication. As to St. Rocco's, I'd like to talk about that at the appropriate meeting and not at 8:15 p.m. when we're about to adjourn.
But what would be the appropriate meeting? What do you mean?
Yes.
We will also be updating board members at our monthly meeting in my chair's report, an update on the St. Rocco site.
At the September board meeting, there will be an update on the St. Rocco site as it pertains to what CB7 is going to be doing and when. So like, for example, when this committee will be discussing that again? Okay, and that meeting is happening
17th.
September 17th. Okay. Thank you.
All
And
right,
if we want to facilitate communication, we should reach out to you directly, Chair?
go for it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, this meeting